Hello, and welcome to my video on validity. Before we get to the definition of validity, please remember that reliability and validity go with quantitative studies, whereas trustworthiness goes with qualitative studies. So what is validity? Validity of an instrument here obviously can be a questionnaire. Let's stick with questionnaire because of quantitative approaches. That's typically the example I use. So validity of an instrument, so a questionnaire, refers to the extent to which it measures what it is supposed to measure. Okay, so how in the world do you do that? There are actually four types of validity. So let's say you've got a questionnaire, and we are again, for illustration purpose, we're going to use the term to explain what's going on. So let me just quickly, because I'm going to use this as illustration, let's just run through the term. I've gone through this in many of my videos, so quick, really quick. TAM is about the technology acceptance. Would someone accept technology? So first they say you've got to see the ease of use, how easy it is to use, because that feeds into the perceived usefulness, how useful is the technology. These two feed into your attitude towards using it, which ultimately feeds into your behavioral intention to use technology, which finally leads to your actual use. So, oh, and there's some external variables. This might be gender or age. So let's say people who are older might find the ease of use more difficult, and younger people obviously find technology, the ease of use a lot simpler and easier. But regardless, the TAM is just a model, a theoretical model, used to look at the acceptance of technology. Now, each of these constructs, these building blocks are called constructs. If you have a questionnaire on the TAM, you would have a couple of questions on the perceived usefulness, so on one of these constructs. So you have a couple of questions on perceived usefulness where your respondents have to strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. This should be disagree, sorry. This is why I have Word documents. So I can um, quickly just fix this up. I'll just fix it up everywhere and save it. Okay, so you ask some questions that pertain to perceived usefulness. So all of these are sort of how useful people see this. Let's look at ease of use. So for every construct, the next construct, ease of use, you also have a couple of questions, right? Let's look at how easy it is, ease of use. Let's look at this for an example. So we have it is easy to use ICTs to teach graphs. ICTs is, of course, information communication technologies. So it is easy to use ICTs to teach graph. It's quick to learn something new about ICT should it be necessary. It's easy for me to learn the use of ICTs to teach math in my classroom. And ICTs are user-friendly, so this is all about the ease of use. So there are 4 items for ease of use. There are 4 items for perceived usefulness. There is, sorry, I'm just fixing the notes. Um, Attitudes toward use, there are 4 items. These are things like I'm very positive to use it, I'm glad, all teachers should be using it, and so forth. I mean, you can pause the videos and look at these if you wanted to see the items that go along with a construct. So this was for the attitudes toward using. And then obviously you'll have items for behavioral use and for actual use. So you will then have for your intention to use, so that's your behavioral intention to use. This should also be updated, behavioral intention to use. It's just so it fits with the model a bit better, behavioral intention to use. Um, okay, and then finally, actual use. Actual use, there's only one question, how often do you use it? Because that measures your actual use. But the point is, if you have a theoretical model, for each construct, you will have some items. Of course, I didn't look at external variables now, but we said it's like age and gender. So the questionnaire will just ask, what is your gender? What is your age, right? Um, but anyways, I'll use this to explain validity today. Okay, types of validity. Number one, face validity. So it is the extent to which an instrument looks suitable for the construct measured. In other words, to what extent does the instrument appear to be measuring what it's supposed to measure? So face validity, this is the weakest type of validity because you just look at your questionnaire and you just sort of look, does it look suitable to meet technology acceptance? So this literally would be just going through it and seeing, does it look suitable? So to say, okay, I've got a Likert scale, a 5-point Likert scale going from strongly disagree to strongly agree. There are some questions on perceived usefulness. There are some questions on perceived ease of use, some on attitude, some on behavioral intention, and some on actual use. So you might say, okay, sure, it looks good. Um, so face value is simply looking at a questionnaire to say, does it look like it can measure what it's supposed to measure? But this is the weakest type of validity. I mean, just looking at a questionnaire and saying, can it measure what it's supposed to measure? Um, that is, not very scientific, if I can put it like that. So let's move to better types of validity. What is content validity? This refers to how accurately an assessment or measurement tool, so again, that can be a questionnaire, taps into the various aspects of the specific construct. So, in other words, do the questions really assess the construct? So, we are sort of saying, do these questions or statements on perceived usefulness, are they really about perceived usefulness? I mean, if you read through them, you will see they are, but the same with perceived ease of use. Are these four statements really measuring perceived ease of use? So, going back, how do you check content validity? So, we say this is usually accomplished by giving the questionnaire to experts. Um, so what we did, content validity is not tested for. You will see the next types, we have some statistical tests that we use, but content validity is not tested for. We don't run um, statistical tests, but we give it to experts um, in the domain. Here's the experts. You give your questionnaire to experts and you ask their opinion. So this step is better than face validity, right? Because you are not just looking at it and saying it looks like it can do what it's supposed to do. Content validity, you give it to experts in the field and you would ask their opinion. So you would say, do you think these items really capture ease of use? And the expert should give their expert opinion. Okay, so this one is a bit better because now experts are looking at your questionnaire. But we can do even better. So we have two more types. We have construct validity, and this is where you actually run some complex statistics. So what is construct validity? This is the extent to which a research instrument or tool, so again, this is just a questionnaire, measures the intended constructs. Okay, you can read through this, blah, 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 blah. As you know, I don't like reading all the slides. You can read it. You've got the notes before watching the videos. Let's just go to this. It is tested using correlation or factor analysis. So let's stick with correlation because factor analysis is a very complex statistical procedure. Correlations are simpler. So what this means is you actually, for each construct, remember each construct is a block. There's a lot of words for the blocks. You might have heard component, construct, building block, factor, scale. There are so many words for this, but let's use construct. Every construct you saw has some items. So what you can do, let's look at perceived ease of use. For these 4 items, you can run correlations to check if they are correlating high. See, you're testing whether these items really belong to this construct. And you can use correlations or factor analysis. Like I said, factor analysis is statistically complex. So I'm just going to use correlations. So let's look at these sentences. It is easy to use ICT. It is very quick to learn something new, meaning it's easy, right? It's easy for me to learn to use ICTs to teach math, and it's user-friendly. So all of these are about ease of use. Now, you would think someone who would strongly agree with one of these sentences would strongly agree with the rest, right? Because it's all about ease of use. And the same, someone who's neutral with one of these sentences, you would expect to be neutral with all of these sentences. So you are sort of just looking at how people are responding, but you are suspecting a very strong positive correlation because all these sentences are similar. So you would expect that the same respondent would answer similarly for all of them, meaning there would be some high significant positive correlation. Um, you don't have to understand the entire background of correlation, but as long as you understand for construct validity, you want to see if these items correlate highly because they belong to this construct. And the same, choose something else. Look at this construct, attitudes toward use. You also want to look at these items and see if they all correlate very strongly or significantly or highly, because then they show they belong to the same construct. So construct validity is a bit better than content validity and face validity, because remember, face validity, you just look at the questionnaire and say, okay, it looks fine. It looks like it's covering what it's supposed to cover. Content validity, at least you give it to an expert to say, okay, the questionnaire looks good. Construct validity, you actually start looking at correlations. Like I said, not between all questions on the questionnaire. That would not make any sense. I'm talking about you're looking at correlations between items that belong to the same construct. And you will do this for each construct. Okay, that is construct validity. And finally, we have something called criterion validity, which is also called predictive validity. This is just if you take your questionnaire, say your research instrument, and you compare it to some known standard. Sometimes they call it a golden standard. I'm just going to update my notes. Golden. So let's say you've created a new questionnaire. You can always give that same questionnaire, that questionnaire that you gave to respondents. You can take a questionnaire that has existed for years on the same topic, and you can give it to your respondents to see if the results are similar. So you're comparing your questionnaire to an existing known questionnaire. They call it sometimes a golden standard if the other questionnaire has been around for a while. So basically, you give respondents your questionnaire, you give them like a golden standard questionnaire, and you see if the results are the same. An example is I have in videos talked about the TAM, which was developed in 1989, but later in 2003, Venkatesh and others created the UTALT. Now, the UTALT is similar to the TAM because you can see behavioral intention to use, um, even like effort expectancy, that's similar to the ease of use of the TAM. This use behavior is the actual use. There's a lot of stuff that are similar. Even the UTALT has some um, external variables like gender and age, like the TAM. But what the UTAUT added was social influence. Like if other people are using technology, is that a social influence on you to use technology? And they also added facilitating conditions. Like if you have technology, you can use it. Or if you get training on technology, you can use it easier, right? So the UTAUTs, but it's very similar to the TAM. Really, it's like you it's comparable to the TAM. So what you would do is you could give your respondents the UTOUT, which in 2003 was new, and you could give them the TAM, which was a golden standard because it's been there since 1989. And then you just compare the results between UTOUT and TAM, and it should be similar because a lot of these constructs are similar. Okay, finally, what are threats to validity? So we've covered the types of validity, um, 4 types, but what are threats to validity? So firstly, the reliability of an instrument. Now, we have a separate video for reliability, so I don't want to talk about it now, but basically, there are steps. And actually, you first have to prove reliability of your instrument before you can prove validity. Reliability comes first. So that is why also in the order of the notes, we actually have reliability first, followed by validity. So this is not per chance. This is because usually you prove reliability first. Okay, so we had a separate video for all these types of reliabilities. And then once you have established reliability, only then do you go to validity. And that is why we have validity second in the notes. So threats of validity is reliability because I've just said we typically first show reliability. That's step one in quantitative approaches. And only once you've established your reliability do you then move to validity. Okay, threats to validity. Some respondents may just agree or say yes. So some people just want to be agreeable. So they will just say yes or agree. The social desirability, like people might answer what they think is expected. Let me just talk about this. With questionnaires, you always promise people confidentiality and anonymity, but they don't always believe you. Especially in today's world, we send questionnaires via email. And whenever you send via email, I mean, it captures your IP address. If you use there are software programs to create questionnaires. Some well-known ones are Google Forms, Qualtrics, SurveyMonkey, there's a couple more. But all these sort of software programs where you email someone a questionnaire, it captures the IP address of the computer. Um, it does that for various reasons. It's to make sure the same respondent didn't fill in the questionnaire 100 times. If you wonder why someone would do that, but I'm getting off the point, um, some people give an incentive for you to fill in their questionnaire. They would say, I'll give you 100 Rand to complete this questionnaire. So then you would find you have the same person filling in the same questionnaire 100 times. So many of these software programs, they do capture the IP address of the computer, which means you actually can be identified if someone really, 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 really wanted to. Um, I mean, it would be difficult. I don't know how to identify someone with his or her computer IP address, but still, you get the point that if you email someone a questionnaire, it is not completely anonymous, as the IP address is captured by the software program, and that is done for many, many reasons. So a lot of people um, don't believe that questionnaires are anonymous, and they don't believe their confidentiality is kept. So they just answer what they think you want to hear, so that is a threat to your validity. And bias. Okay, so what is item bias? Item bias, we've discussed, there's a separate video for bias. Let me just quickly give you an example. There is one that was the respondent's bias or response bias. Was, let's say you send out a questionnaire on a satisfaction at Checkers today. So what would happen if you went to Checkers and you had a terrible experience? Like you couldn't find parking, you couldn't find what you were looking for, the queues were long, when you got to the front, the card machine didn't work. And if Checkers then sends you an email that afternoon to rate them, you will definitely go and rate them very poorly and very aggressively. You will go and you're angry because you had this terrible experience. So there's a lot of time very biased in who answers a questionnaire, especially with satisfaction questionnaires, because people who had a bad experience at a place will take the time to fill in the questionnaire to tell their horrible, horrible experience, whereas people who had a moderate experience to a good experience, if they see the email, they might just delete it. So, I mean, that is a threat to validity because you're getting all the bad responses. You understand? I mean, it completely biases your results. And if you're wondering if this really happens, it does. I'm not going to give the name of the company. I use Checkers as an example. Actually, it was not Checkers 6060. It was not Checkers, the app. I have a couple of apps on my cell phone for delivery services. I deliver my groceries. I am an associate professor. My time is valuable. I don't have time to shop. Honestly, I don't. I have a lot of apps and all my groceries are delivered. And I had a terrible experience with someone where I ordered chocolates, at least dark chocolates, so it's healthy. And when it came here, it was completely melted beyond anything that I could salvage, really. And when I got the survey the afternoon, how was my online shopping experience? I gave them 0. I think I was just so upset because Lindt dark chocolate is really expensive and it's sort of a treat for me and I don't always get it. And, when it sort of arrived, all just melted and ruined. I was so upset that when the survey came through, I gave them 0. Shame. And when they asked me would I recommend them to anyone, I said no. So that is just, I'm just telling you my story to show you that it happens. A lot of bias happens in questionnaires because always ask yourself, who is answering your questionnaire. And especially with satisfaction questionnaires, it is people who are very unsatisfied, or like what happened to me. I was really upset that all my very expensive Lindt dark chocolates were completely ruined. Um, and now I feel bad because, it's online. I knew it was going to be in the back of a truck for a while, but still, I'm just trying to say this actually happens. Everything I'm teaching you, it is not always highly theoretical. All of these things are based on, I think, actual experiences. So just keep in mind, if we have a list like this, threats of validity, it's not just things we list that never happen. I mean, this is compiled by researchers through experience, and some of that experience is personal experience. But anyways, I was trying to say a big threat of validity, especially with questionnaires, is that the people responding to the questionnaires, especially satisfaction questionnaires, are usually your disgruntled clients. So when you analyze data like that, don't take it too much to heart, because I think those people actually know, especially satisfaction questionnaires, it is the disgruntled customers that tend to respond to the link. Okay, but anyway, thank you for watching my video. Thank you for that. In some videos, I can at least tell you something about myself. It's difficult with online teaching. I would like you guys to get to know me. But we don't have any interaction with pre-recorded lessons. So every now and then you'll find I'll tell you a story, but that is just, for you guys at least to get to know me. So I hope that in doing that, you would feel free to ask me questions. Obviously via email, or we can set up a Zoom session, or however you want to ask me questions. I at least hope you get to know me enough to feel safe enough with me, or confident enough to approach me to ask any questions that you want. And thank you for watching this video.